Hi, everybody. I'm excited to share this next tea talk with you. I talked with Rick Perry. We chat about pets. We chat about his time working at Warner Brothers, about Dimension 20 and Starstruck and the different campaigns there. There's also a little special appearance by a box of heads that gets thrown in there. So here it is, the tea talk with Rick Perry.
It's an anxious DM, talking with friends. Don't run, walk, it's a tea talk.
And how?
I worked for a while. I worked on the Warner Brothers lot for a couple of years, and every day when I would drive through the gates, even however crazy the job was the day before, I would still get this little tingle of excitement, like I was going like into Oz or something. I think that's why people work in the industries. You have to have that kind of like get that little buzz from it.
Also, I think all the dogs are going to be with us the whole time. So if you see,
Who are your dogs there?
I'll show you. I got 3 dogs all here. Poncho, who's that? That's Poncho.
Hi, Poncho.
Who's that, Poncho? He actually
Howdy.
does. He looks at the camera sometimes, but he's
Cool.
me and him are spirit animals because we're just balls of anxiety all the time. That's Iona and Nizoni. They're my old ladies. They're the sweetest. Nizoni, and then we got Mayo the cat in the window. It's white backlit, but
Nice. Right on.
now
That's a fair amount of animals to be
It's-
taken care of.
it's too many. It was too many. We made mistakes were made.
It happens fast.
But I love them all very much. You shaved.
I did, yes.
Man, what
just had to change
what
it up.
happened?
I don't know. I kind of move and do different things with my facial hair, I guess, from time to time. But I don't know. I just kind of was tired of it and had to go.
That's that I get. I guess as a another facial hair person, I
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah, it'd been there for a while. I did take my kids into the bathroom. I was like, all right. Or, I asked them like, I'm gonna shave my beard. Do you want to watch me do it?
That's a good
I know
idea.
how kind of like format. And I, really was like, oh look, now I just have a goatee, and they were definitely. It was definitely weird, but it actually they didn't get freaked out. So I guess that was a success.
That is a success because I've seen all those videos on the internet of like people being like the blanket and their kids just like crying. I like the baseball cap too. It's nice.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
Do you always
Well,
wear hats?
I do. I'm pretty bald, so
I'm losing it.
Yeah, I don't always wear them, but if I'm outside at all, I get sunburned really quick. So I just always
yeah.
gotta have one with me.
Do you have any pets, by the way?
Yeah, we have 2 cats. 2 cats, Randy and Moonbird. They've been around, I think, 7 years old now, both of them now.
Oh, those are great. Those are great names, by the way.
It's one redneck and one hippie. Randy and Moonbird.
Yeah, I guess. Do you want to let's start the show. This is the time, I guess. Do you
Cool.
do you want to introduce yourself? Just say
Sure.
your name and what you're drinking today.
I'm Rick Perry, and I'm drinking. What is this? Let's see. It's the last of this Summer's Muse tea that my neighbor makes. It's pretty good. Got
What's
a little
it?
honey in it.
What's in it?
A collection of summer herbs gathered at peak season. Peppermint, calendula, lemon balm, marshmallow, oak tops. Yeah.
I know one of those things.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's
What are
good.
you drinking?
I'm drinking garbage. Like I'm on the dregs of my tea stash, like just the
Oh, wow.
last of all of it, and so it's some like elderberry tea. It's not good. It is
Oh,
bad.
really? I don't know if I drink elderberry tea.
Don't.
All right.
Just don't do it. You'll regret it. But it's cool your neighbor makes that tea.
Yeah. She's like a apothecary. They have like an apothecary store, and so she like collects herbs around here and dries them and makes incredible teas and other things. Pretty cool.
How cool would it be to say like I have an apothecary? Like that is. I mean, you kind of have a paint apothecary.
Well, it's definitely some D&D stuff, It's like, oh yeah,
It really is like that feels super fantasy-esque.
Yeah.
I forgot to say, but I guess if you want to introduce anything about
Yeah.
yourself, tell my
Oh, yeah.
6
Sorry.
people that watch this who you are.
Right. I work on an actual play show called Dimension 20. That's from College Humor, and it's 7 comedians playing Dungeons and Dragons, usually with like some custom miniatures or hand props or some kind of usually has some kind of highly produced aspect to it. And I'm the production designer and creative producer on the show.
Very nice. So we, and it's so good. Like if you haven't watched Dimension 20 and you're watching this, what are you doing? That's the stuff you should be watching is Dimension 20. It's so good. I was talking with my mom about Dimension 20 because that's what I do now is I talk with my mom about it. And it's funny because like she's a librarian. She just got her master's in library science. And she was telling me they're doing D&D programs at libraries and stuff like that. And so I had talked with B. Dave Walters a while back, and she was telling a coworker, and she was like, "Oh wow, that's so cool." And then I said I was talking with Rick Perry, and then this other lady was like, "Oh, that's the Dimension 20 person, like with like Brandon Lee Mulligan and stuff." And it's funny to see like, and they're in Utah, like
Wow.
yeah, they're in like West Jordan, Utah. So it's crazy that like
That's pretty wild.
yeah, and who'd have thought like with everything that's gone on with like College Humor and it's known in probably every state at this point. Like
That's crazy. Yeah, College Humor is pretty old. Like, I think they're one of the earliest comedy websites from like 2001 or something.
really, I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
yeah. They have I read the Wikipedia article at some point, but it's like passed through different people kind of helming it at different times, and
Mm.
just that's like really aged for a internet company, internet comedy company.
That's very true. I mean, that was like, yeah, that was, I mean, 2001? That's
I'm
real
pretty sure
old.
that's when it started.
20 years ago? Like, what was the internet even like 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Just like E-Bombs World and
Right.
what was that other website that was like pre-YouTube? It was like Stupid Videos, I think, stupidvideos.com.
Yeah. God, there was a few of them.
I watched so much of E-Bombs World. And what a horrible website. Like, it was a horrible place. It was not a good place.
Yeah, it'd be cool to like. I'm sure those things are snapshotted somewhere, but it'd be funny to like try to go back and click around on one of those actual old pages just to see how weird it would be.
Yeah, like I remember like 55, that was like that was the video that my friends loved, and it was just the stupidest video. It was so bad and so dumb. And we watched it like 2 million times. Like what
Yeah.
what a stupid thing. So I wonder what College Humor's videos looked like in 2001.
Yeah, I do too. I feel like they were probably a lot more guerrilla or something,
Yeah, like covert style. I didn't know you worked at Warner Brothers though. I found a Rick Perry on IMDb, and I don't know if it's you. I don't know if it's you or not. But it had a bunch of it had some credits on there. What stuff did you work on with Warner Brothers?
Uh, I worked on America's Best Dance Crew for I think 3 seasons, 2 seasons,
Really?
seasons. I don't remember. It's been a while now, but yeah, variety reality show. I that was actually right when I moved to LA, and I think I was an art production assistant. Um, but I kind of ended up building a lot of props. I actually started building. That's where I first built like LED props and
Oh, cool.
stuff like that. Yeah, it was really fun. It was just like a very scrappy kind of art department because it's primarily like a dance kind of variety reality dance show, but it has a lot of wacky props. And a part of my job was when I first got there was just driving around and shopping. So I would spend like 10 to 12 hours a day in my pickup truck driving around LA. I just moved there and definitely listened to a lot of audiobooks and podcasts and actual play stuff, and came to peace with LA traffic and that kind of stuff. But it would be like they would send me on a mission. They're like, okay, here's some petty cash. You need to go buy 15 purple sparkly hula hoops. And so then I'm looking on my phone and being like, okay, there's these 6 Toys R Us's. This one has 3. This one has. I'd call them. This one has 4. And it has to be as fast as possible.
Oh my
So I go
gosh.
out to like 4 or 5 of these places, and I would gather all these hula hoops, and then I would get a call, and they would say, okay, cancel the hula hoops. We need 9 orange canes. And then I would just go out and get 9 orange canes or
Oh
whatever.
my gosh.
Kind of an insane job.
Jeez, I can't even. What the hell is that? Like that is in LA. Like so, I lived in Orange County for like
Okay.
7 or 8 months, and we would go to concerts all the time in LA. Like go to the Troubadour and places like that. And I mean, I remember coming home from a concert at like 2 or 3 in the morning, and there was traffic on the freeway. I was like, what is this? Like
Yeah.
this is horrible.
Yeah. That's definitely a true LA thing, is like being stuck on the freeway for an hour at like 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning.
That is, I mean, that's an insane story though, that you had to go out in LA. Like LA is a horrible city to drive in. It's a horrible city to drive in.
Yeah, it's intense. I mean, and it was like that day after day after day, for a long time. And but I like to say I kind of made my peace with it. I had like my water, and I had my like things to listen to, and I took really nice care of my vehicle, and it was like my like little zen space, and it was like, okay, I'm just gonna do. It was still stressful, but yeah, it was fine.
How the hell did you find peace in LA traffic? Like how was that something that you were able to accomplish?
Yeah, it definitely took a minute. I mean, it was very stressful at first, but I think just like uh there was a lot of things clearly that I couldn't control about my job, right?
Mm,
Like I couldn't control if they were going to use the thing that I was going to get or throw it away,
yeah.
if the store inventory actually had what they were supposed to, or if I was stuck in traffic or whatever. But I could control like my little space, and I listened to a lot of like fantasy and sci-fi books and things that were really like almost it was kind of like I was getting paid to listen to like the Lord of the Rings or whatever, while I was driving around. So um that was part of it. And then I don't know. I mean, I guess after a while you kind of take pride in like being able to drive around LA and be speedy and know like tricks and whatever,
That's
so
a fair point. It's skill acquisition.
yeah. Yeah,
Like
totally.
knowing all the back ways to go and everything. So how long then, because you're listening to sci-fi, Lord of the Rings and stuff, so how long would you say you've been into like nerdy things?
Um, I guess always. I mean, I always have been interested in like the more,
Wow.
like, just movies first, and comics as a kid. And um I wasn't something that was really kind of like in my family or whatever. I grew up in rural Texas in a kind of conservative, like, kind of redneck
Mm-hmm.
place. And there wasn't really a lot of that stuff around. And
Yeah, so and that's I'm like, who introduced you to it?
I don't know. I think it's just you just find your stuff. Like I remember we would, every once in a while we would get HBO when it was available, and tape a bunch of videos off of it, and
Oh
then watch
yeah.
like Swamp Thing over and over again or
Oh,
whatever.
that's so
Like
cool.
the Never Ending Story. Like there's just a bunch of those kind of like movies that were just pulp fantasy and sci-fi and stuff. And
Yeah, that's
I
a
don't know. I
good
think
word for it. Pulp fantasy.
yeah, it's like it I've always been interested in world building, and I would just Star Wars, whatever, just geek out on the details of things, and the kind of like contextual information that would be in the world building that maybe wasn't even always talked about but it was like implied setting and things that were sort of like part of the world have always been something really fascinating to me. As an editor, actually, a film editor, a video editor.
Were you really?
Yeah, my wife. Yeah, she
Oh,
edits
your
commercials.
wife is.
Yeah,
Oh, really? I didn't know that. That's awesome.
yeah.
I watching movies with you guys must just be like either the coolest or the worst thing in the world.
Well, it's when you work in film enough, and you watch a movie, you start to be able to imagine what's like if the frame is what you're seeing with the actors, you start to be able to imagine like all the other
Mm,
270 degrees, like the lights
wow.
and the guy eating the sandwich back there quietly watching, and the person mixing the sound. You start to be able to feel all that, and it takes you out of stuff, out of movies and TV shows and stuff. But if it's good enough, you forget about that.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
just get sucked in, and you're no longer like thinking about the filmmaking process. At least that's what I've noticed from having some knowledge about it.
That is super cool. That's interesting. Oh, man, that is so interesting. I think like it's funny to because I don't know. Sticking with like the college humor theme, I've been watching a lot of Game Changer. I mean, I think Game Changer is just so good.
It's a really great show.
It's really good. Like because I watch a lot of Taskmaster too, and I thought like once I watched Taskmaster, I was like, nothing will ever compare to. Have you seen Taskmaster?
What is Taskmaster?
Oh man, if you talk with Sam at all, he's a big fan of Taskmaster. I act like I know Sam. I've heard him mention it like once. I've never talked with the guy, but like he it's a UK show where they get comedians on to compete in challenges, and Greg Davies is the Taskmaster, and he's kind of like this dictator almost that just like it's very old school.
Sounds great.
Yeah, it's very old school because it has like this like dude that's in charge, and he's just awarding people points and making fun of all the contestants, and very like you have to appease him. Like the thing that I think is brilliant is they do prizes, and the prizes are also part of the game. So at the beginning they say like bring something wet, like bring the most wet thing, and everybody has to bring something that they think is the most wet, but they're all comedians, so it's always incredible. Alex Horn is the person that came up with it, and he has written himself to be the sidekick. So he constantly gets made fun of and berated. Like I remember he wears a leash at one point in time, and he's the creator of the show, you know?
That's amazing.
So it's an amazing show.
Fantastic.
It's fantastic. And but then I thought like that's kind of it, you know, that's I don't think anything will top this. But Game Changer is close. Like it's really close. It's really good.
Yeah.
And the set is so good.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. So what movies then for you, like what's the difference between a movie that you get totally immersed in and you don't think about the production at all, and versus you do think about it?
I mean, probably a lot of it is personal taste, but I think it's just stuff that's good. I mean, or at least that's how I'm like, oh, this is good. But also another thing that can bump me out is bad acting
Oh yeah.
or like a scene that's like poorly written or what things like that. So sometimes I kind of come in and out of being aware of watching a show or whatever, but yeah, like a good movie, I just feel like I'm just in it the whole time, and feel like it's happening to me, or whatever, just like everybody does when you're
Yeah, for sure.
movie.
That's a good, yeah, that flow state, to quote, I can't remember his name, Mikhail Chimkovsky or whatever, the guy that wrote that book. I read about it in school. I clearly learned a lot in college.
I've heard a lot about flow state and used that phrase, but I didn't know, I don't know where it's from.
Yeah, as a recreation therapist, there's you basically just live like I basically had a whole semester devoted to flow, you know? Like
Wow.
and it's like loss of time, loss of like physical needs. So like you forget about being hungry or anything. And yeah, just like that hyper focus. So what would you say then? I'm just interested. What are some of your like what are some movies that you have like enjoyed the production value of? So like, because I think of like the Lord of the Rings extended editions, where you could watch like the behind the scenes stuff. What movies have made you go and look up the behind the scenes stuff?
Yeah, well, I do that. I think the last thing that some of the recent ones that I've watched that really did that were not movies, but Loki. The production design in Loki
Oh,
is phenomenal.
interesting.
The color palettes and just the attention to all the like the world building is nuts, and
Huh.
it's repeated. It's not just like one world, phenomenal. What else? I really enjoying. I enjoyed watching The Mandalorian, although I think it's maybe a little uneven or whatever. But the production design and the world building is so fun.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see that stuff built out. What else? I really like Dune.
Oh yeah, I need to see it. I haven't seen it yet.
It's good. I mean, it's a auteur director's take on a fantastic uh, book, and I don't think it's you could probably no one is ever going to do that and like click everyone's things that they liked about it or whatever.
Absolutely, yeah.
But all that being said, I thought it was really good. I thought it was uh yeah, just like I thought the production design, I thought the music was great. I thought there was I feel like there's some cool nods to the David Lynch version of it, which I
That's
actually
cool.
really liked because that was like a movie I watched as a kid that was
Yeah.
a weird, awesome sci-fi movie or whatever.
And I actually, this is unfortunate too. I've never watched the David Lynch one, but I
Wow,
remember we had the VHSs of it, and it was a two
two-parter.
VHS, yeah. And so it was like that
Uh-huh.
thick VHS set. I'm interested then because if you did come from like more conservative background during, I don't know, how does that lead you to Dungeons and Dragons? Like how did you get to that point? Because obviously like those two things were at odds in the
Yeah.
80s during the Satanic Panic.
Right. Yeah. Well, so my family, my folks are pretty conservative, and I was raised Episcopal and went to church and stuff, but we weren't particularly like like kind of like Bible thumping or whatever. It's
Mm-hmm.
just whatever. And so I think that the conservatism that I grew up in is kind of more like traditional in a kind of rural fear-based kind of way than like particularly religious necessarily. But I kind of there's a lot of overlap there.
I
And
do get that.
anyway, I distinctly remember being I think I was in the mall and in a bookstore, like there used to be, and and I saw like I think I saw like a Dungeons and Dragons like box set or something, and was just like, whoa, what is this? Was
Mm.
riveted, and I think I asked my mom if we could buy it or if I could get it for my birthday or something, and I remember her response was like, you ain't playing that. That's the devil's game. I was like, oh, it's the devil's game. Okay.
Well, now I really want to
Yeah,
play.
true. But I will say that sometime later, the Marvel Superheroes RPG materialized at our house.
Oh, interesting.
Was reading a lot of Marvel comics at the time, and
Yeah.
I guess my mom decided that was a good compromise.
Wow.
Uh, which I never played correctly, probably, but I definitely like read and really enjoyed I think that's probably my first level of like source books, where you can like read the stats on every superhero and there's
Oh
rules
my
about
gosh, that is so
case,
cool.
and yeah, it was so neat. And I think I played it, with my brother. My little brother, we played in a kind of like way that we made up because we didn't really understand the rules and no one was teaching us or anything. But
That was me in Pokemon cards. I still have no
okay.
idea how to play to this day.
Your way is the best way. I mean, but it really, if you're having fun, you're playing it the right way.
That's it. That's all that matters. Like honestly though, like I've ran hundreds of games in my life, and like following the rules is so overrated. It's so overrated. Like just having fun. I love what you said right there is so cool. Like, and I think like people that make RPG games are like, yeah, you don't have to follow the rules. Like just have fun. That's all it is.
Yeah. I mean, the rules are there to help you have fun if they help you have fun. And if they don't or they get in the way, then,
That's a good way. That's a really good way to put it. Actually, that should go on. That should be like the tagline for D&D. It's like, if a rule is fun, do it. If it's not fun, don't do it. You know, that's it. So, when you were looking through this like Marvel superhero book, what was one hero that you were just super excited to like find out about?
I think I'm trying to remember back, but one thing was cool is that I was reading like Avengers and like Thor and
Mm,
Spider-Man and like whatever was kind of the stuff in the probably like the early 90s. Uh and then so one thing was cool was like getting to see the book was like a little older, and so getting to see a lot of the lesser known characters that I hadn't encountered in the comics, and then also I remember, if I remember, I should get a copy of that just for funsies to go back and look at. But I believe that just like in real comics, the power scale is like really extreme, right? Like you have like somebody who's just a normal human with like a gun, and then you
yeah,
have like a deity on the other end
yeah.
of the spectrum. But they're all kind of siloed in their comics, so you don't really. That's not really an issue that comes up. But when you have this one thing, it's like, whoa, Silver Surfer is like so much
Oh,
more powerful than
yeah.
whoever. I think I just remember realizing that, like, oh, some of these characters are basically gods, And I think that's right about then was when like Image Comics started. So I was getting Spawn from the grocery
Oh
store and
yeah, Spawn.
some of those like wild cards, and I can't even remember all of them, but yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. Like I find it so funny. It also coming from like the very religious conservative background, like the things that are allowed and the things that aren't allowed. You know, like it's like you can play an RPG, but it can't be fantasy. It has to be Marvel. For me, it was like I could watch like it was always movies with me and like
Mhm.
music. Like I could watch PG-13 movies, all I wanted, but it could never be R. You know. And I remember, I think the first rated R movie that I saw was like Tropic Thunder, I think was the
Oh,
first
wow.
one. Yeah, which is like
That's a really bonkers movie.
and I was like, is every rated R movie like this? Like
Yeah, it's kind of a parody of what a rated R movie is, like literally.
it was. And so I just think like Robert Downey Jr. is in like blackface in that, and like it's just a crazy movie. And so I think like maybe that's what it is for RPGs also, is it's like there's like PG-13 and like R, but I don't know, it's all so dependent on the DM. Like
Yeah, yeah, and the players, like everybody at the table, like really just deciding what game they're playing or whatever.
yeah, very true, very true. So then what leads you get into Marvel RPG or things like that? What leads you to start working on like miniatures and minis? At what point does this enter?
Well, that's not something that's really happened until like when I started working, or just before I started working on Dimension 20. So like 4 years
Really?
or so, yeah.
Wow.
So I
So why did you get into Dimension 20? Why was that something that you wanted to like how did you get involved?
Yeah, well, so I have worked in film and TV and digital media since I think 2003 or so, somewhere in there, and pretty quickly on I gravitated towards art department, and I've worked as like a carpenter and a greensman and props and scenic artist and kind of a lot of the different um, classifications, and I kind of just moved up and got into art directing and then eventually production design, uh, and so I was production designing a couple of sketches one summer for College Humor, because a friend of mine was producing them. Is how I got connected up with them, and at the same time I had just gotten back. I'd gone like I played D&D in like college, and then I kind of just fell away from it. And over the course of like that 10 years or so,
Yeah.
I would occasionally like go and like pick up some of the books at a used bookstore and just read through the source books,
Oh
like it's kind of
wow.
like I did as a kid. And but I didn't have any kind of peers that were playing it or anything, and
Yeah.
so I was just sort of solo doing that, and then yeah, I guess maybe about a year before they were spinning up Dimension 20, I had just gotten back into D&D and was like running a campaign for like my girlfriend at the time and friends and brother and stuff,
Mm.
and with 5e and kind of just like, man, I really should do this. This is a really fun thing, and I love this. Why haven't I been playing this before? And trying to rope people in to play with me, and then yeah, and then so I was in kind of in with College Humor, and I heard they were deciding to do this actual play show, and they were looking for a production designer, and so they invited me in, and it just seemed like a really good connection. I think I had just recently bought some minis, a few months before, and was kind of trying to learn how to paint them. And I'm still learning to paint minis. I'm not.
I've never even tried.
It's tricky, but it's not that hard. I mean, it's just like anything else. It's just skills and tricks and stuff that you figure out over time.
I have the worst fine motor skills. They are so bad. Like nothing frustrates me more than like Legos. That is like I can't do them. Like you have to like put them in like you have to like count how many like little tiny nodes there are and where you connect it, and I'm like, nope, my hands are big and not coordinated.
It's definitely a thing because I come from more like building, full scale kind of.
Yeah, that's true.
And especially the first year or so, first couple of seasons, I'm smart enough to find and hire very talented people that know and can make the stuff. But I've always kind of run the shop and worked alongside them, and so it took a while for because my skills I have a lot of construction skills, building stuff, and so using nail guns and wood glue and table saw and chop saw, and you can't really do that. I think I shot my hand a couple of times with nail guns trying to nail like teeny tiny little things that would just explode.
Oh no!
Like, trying to use trying to work fast. I'm like, all right, I can just slap this together, and they're like, you should probably just use super glue for that. Like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, I just rewatched the Santa episode, that first Unsleeping City one.
Oh yeah.
And the reveal on the giant Santa is so cool. And I was thinking, how did they get the beard on that thing? Like and I was like, it's got to be super glue. It's got to be super glue. Like
you're talking about the big like
the slug Santa.
Yeah, it's sculpted. So that's a kit bash where we took the bottom part was, I think, a Reaper's miniatures, some kind of like eldritch horror kind of monster, and then the top half was, I think it was from this place called Ristle, and or I think it's a guy actually named Ristle, and so it was like a resin mutant man person, and then we sculpted stuff onto it, so you can use like green stuff. It's like this two-part stuff you mix together, and you can put it on there, and then you can kind of just poke it around and sculpt it.
Really? And that was like the beard and stuff like that?
I believe that's how we got the beard, and probably the Santa hat too,
because the hat, yeah. That is incredible. That is so good. You guys are honestly, you are mad scientists. Like that is, you're literally
like that.
sawing something in half and like sticking it together.
That's exactly right. And when we do a season, and I'm like trying to, like the very beginning, like kind of candy or whatever, and I'm kind of like pounding my head, like, okay, how do we make all these food miniatures?
Oh my gosh,
they don't
madness.
Exist, and so it's like, looking at stuff and being like, okay, I can cut the legs and head off of these minis. These all kind of feel like a medieval court kind of thing. That's good. And then there's like we ended up using a lot of cabochons.
I love how casually you just said, we can cut the heads off these things.
I mean, I have boxes of heads and legs down here, like bins and bins of parts and pieces, from
If the local police department is listening and they just hear that part, I have a box full of heads here. You know what?
they're organized.
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. I think Crown of Candy is actually like criminally underrated. Actually, let me rephrase this. I tried listening to Crown of Candy, and I was like, this is fine. It's fine, like it's whatever. But then I started watching. I just barely started it because once you said, when I made that Sistine Chapel reference, you're like, you got to watch Crown of Candy. I hadn't watched it. I just listened to it because I like got YouTube Premium or whatever and could listen.
Yeah. I listen to most actual plays also. I just or whatever.
But man, you have to watch Crown of Candy. Like that's one you have to watch because you just see all the stuff that you guys have made, and it's like, oh, it's so cool. It's like it's fun and light, but it's also like gruesome. It's so good.
Oh, thank you. It's it's definitely a crazy mashup. That cute little candy people poisoning and killing each other.
Meeting Game of Thrones, yeah. I did want to talk a little bit about Starstruck. I feel like, I don't know, I think, and this could be wrong, so when was Starstruck like being filmed?
I think we shot it, I think it was like late September and then into October.
Okay, because I feel like the digital aspect of things have really like it's really kind of I think like with the 7 and like introducing it, like doing, and you had done some online stuff with I think Unsleeping City too. But I feel like Starstruck, it's really like things are coming together and it's working really well. How did the idea for the hot dog ship come about?
Yeah, well, so we knew that it was going to be, I think early on we were calling it like Space Bozos or something. I mean, we knew it was going to be in the Starstruck universe, but a lot of times like a kind of catchphrase will start as we haven't figured out the title of the show or whatever, but it's sort of as like the shorthand for what that season is, and or like Bozo Heist, I think it was also calling it. But it's like the idea that it's like these numbskulls, or whatever, that have this ship, and that ship, we I think Brennan pulled the crew, and I mean the cast.
Crew works too.
Like, yes, the crew also chipped in. And was like, how do we want to do this? Do you want to like have a ship and be like ship centric, like a Firefly kind of Millennium Falcon thing, or whatever? And they like the idea of ship, and which I also thought was great because it's like aesthetically, it's like a it's like a centerpiece set that you're always coming back to, and
true
can change over time and whatever. So then the concept was, well, looking at other things, it's like, okay, is this like a freight ship? Is this like, I think I was thinking of Cowboy Bebop with their it's like an old fishing vessel, or is this like an old passenger thing, or or could be military, decommissioned military? Like, what is the backstory of this? We know it's kind of like a piece of junk, kind of.
Yeah.
But and so they liked military, and so that's what I had, was like, it has a ship that is an old military ship, and so then I started kind of like looking at layouts of ships and thinking about that, and like, man, what is the like dumbest? What's the bozo military ship? And I was like, oh, what if it's a flying mess hall? Like,
yeah.
Thing. And then thinking about the Amercadian world and stuff, and they are like 50s Americana, like super pulp stuff, and I was like, well, if they have a mess ship and they're inspiring their troops to eat up and be strong, they would make it in the shape of a giant hot dog.
Wow.
And so that's kind of where the design came from, and everybody liked it. And
so it was your idea for the hot dog. It's so good. It's so good. This is a crazy story. Like, it's super serendipitous, quantum entanglement, whatever you want. Like, I had just started. It was actually pre-release for for Starstruck. So I don't remember when this was. It was like a month ago or so, or like early January, I think. And I was talking with somebody at work, and they were just talking, and they were like, yeah, one day we're all going to fly up into outer space on our hot dogs. And I was like, what did you just say? They're like, yeah, that's what I call spaceships. I call them hot dogs.
Oh, wow.
And I was like,
profound.
I was like, have you listened to Dimension 20? Like, did you watch Dimension 20? And they were like, no, what's that? And I was like, what is going on? Like, this is, I felt like I was going insane, because it was just like,
yeah. Well, that's actually that sounds very astute of that person, because if you think about it, like, most rocket ships are like big phallic things, and a hot dog, and like, that's definitely a vibe, and that's cool that person calls all spaceships hot dogs.
The reason why they said, I thought, was actually even more astute. Like, it was actually really cool, because they were like, everybody wants the hot dog. When you see it, you want that hot dog. You want to eat it. That's like what you want. But nobody wants to see how the hot dogs are made. And I thought, like, when you think about it with, like, space and everything that's going on now with space, obviously, but, like, yeah, it's true. Like, we know one day we'll get there where spaceships are, like, a real thing. Or maybe not, but, like, it's possible that it could happen. But, like, we don't necessarily want to see how we get to that point. We just want that product.
Or yeah, you don't really want to be. It's like flying on a airliner versus flying on a small plane.
Yeah.
You don't really want to be thinking about how the thing is work. At least as a bozo passenger like myself, versus someone who's a pilot or a mechanic, whatever. But I kind of like don't want to think about all the moving parts and the big thing of fuel that's on there and all that stuff. You want to just have the hot dog.
Were you inspired by the Wienermobile, the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I wasn't. I mean, it's an obvious connection, and I thought that was fine, but it's kind of not where it started from, and so I wasn't trying to lean into it too much or whatever, but I feel like that's kind of in the vein of Starstruck. Starstruck is kind of like at least my reading of it is like, it's a parody of kind of the dumbness of, at least in part of whatever contemporary life,
commercialism and capitalism and all that.
Yeah. And in fact, in Starstruck comics, there's a part where the heroes stop to like eat a hot dog, and they're at a hot dog stand that's shaped like a giant hot dog.
Yeah.
Oh, look, it's in there already.
Yeah, that's good. That's a cool callback. I've started reading the play, ton of satire, big parody, and
big.
Yeah, I think the hot dog choice is brilliant. I honestly think it's so good. I also love that map, like the map that you have for this time. Like, it's kind of like it's the map of the galaxy.
Yeah, I mean, it's not real like literal of anything. It's sort of just inspired by stuff and things like Star Wars or whatever, so it's meant to be like a kind of a map of space. And I don't know if you noticed this or not, but we made a miniature version of it digitally and put it inside the hot dog ship. So you can see them standing on the bridge, and that same map is inside the game.
Really? Oh my gosh! I haven't noticed it yet. I haven't watched the second episode yet, so I gotta. Although, as the third,
I think it pops up in the first episode actually, because I noticed it. I was just watching it the other day, catching up, and I saw it. I was like, oh, that's cool. Because Michael Schawbach is the one who shoots all those inserts in post, and he's the director. And it used to be he would shoot the miniatures in post, and we would cut those elements in. But now he's working on his computer and doing it all. So like, I'm not really involved in post production mostly.
Oh, really?
So it's like interesting to sort of see what makes it into the final cut.
Yeah. So in real time, the battles happen in real time. That's all filmed real time, right?
Yep.
So then post is like the dismantling of the inserts. I've never actually. That makes sense. They're called inserts. That makes a lot of sense. Like, you when you like dismantle the ship and kind of like do a tour of it, that's done afterwards.
Yeah, yeah. And I should say insert. I think a true insert is like when you shoot a close up of something like you shoot a close up of like a hand picking up a coffee cup off the table or whatever. But they're kind of inserts or they're pickups, I guess, technically. But
you can call them anything, and I would believe you. I'd just believe whatever you say.
I did. So they actually for Tailspire, Michael Schallbach is he's in Tailspire. I'm in Tailspire. Hannon Ricketts are Tailspire builders in Tailspire, and a couple other people. We're all in there helping manage the combat in real time, changing hit points, moving minis around, or helping measure things, or just generally helping and trying to help it go smooth. And then during that time when they're in the battle, Michael I think he records his whole screen, and he's going and framing up moments, and also trying to get. Sometimes I think he does straight up just record stuff that sometimes makes it in, but it's also just a lot of reference, like, oh, this will be for this moment. I could be over here, and then after the fact, when they're editing the episode, I think they just make like a shot list with being like, I want to see this moment. I want to see this moment. And then he goes and like sees, do I have it in there, or do I need to make it, recreate it, whatever.
We do need to wrap up. You got stuff. You're a busy man.
Yes.
But before we wrap up, we do a game to finish these shows, because this is a very high quality show. There's a structure.
High production value.
We got dogs in the room, squeaky toys, neighbors taking down trees. This is the big time right here. So you have options for games. We can either create our own game, make up a new game, or we can play Dungeons and Dragons. So, which would you prefer?
I don't know. Let's. Well, I mean, that's so exciting. Maybe let's play our own game, make up our own game.
Yeah, for sure. I love making up games. I mean, I love D&D too. That's why I love both these options. I love both of them.
Hey, we're playing this game and it's super fun, cause it's never the same. That's right, join with us while we play this game. It's game time. Game time. That's right, it's game time. Game.
I love both of them. So, okay, let's think. Make up our own game. What are some games that you enjoy? Like, just top of the head.
Role-playing games or
any board games, video games, whatever you got. Any game.
I don't know. I've been really captivated by a lot of like grimdark RPGs lately.
Okay.
I keep reading all this Warhammer stuff and Zweihander. What else? I think of other. I don't know. What do you got? What game is popping in your head?
Yeah, it's a good question. The funny thing was I was also thinking maybe Rick Perry likes sports because you're from Texas. Maybe you like football.
Sports.
Yeah. It was a stereotype, I will admit. Yeah. I did that.
I was around a lot of sports, but
I believe that. I believe that. Okay, so like a grimdark, like RPG. So when I think that, I kind of think like looting games. So like you get loot acquisition. So like kind of an acquisition game. Do you have dice nearby?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do this. We'll make it like an acquisition game. You will. Okay. Choose 3 dice, 3 of your favorite like shaped dice, whichever D you choose. But let me know which ones you have chosen.
Okay. I have a rainbow D20.
Nice.
I have a turquoise.
That's pretty.
Like an old school chess X.
Ooh, that's pretty.
And I have a D8 that Mr. Brennan Mulligan gave to me.
Oh, nice, very nice. Okay, so D20, D8, and a D10. You said.
Yep.
Okay, so so here's how it'll work. You are gonna roll one of those dice, and let's do the D20 first because I can think about it. And the number is just 10. So the number is 10. You're gonna roll, and I'm gonna either guess if it's above, below, or equals 10. If I get it right, then I get a point. Like I get to keep that dice essentially, so I get that point.
Okay.
And then we'll do it for the other dice also.
Okay.
So yeah, go ahead, roll the D20. 10
Okay.
is the number. Okay. I gotta look at your face and analyze whether it's over, under, or the same. I think you rolled under 10.
You are correct.
Yes! What'd you get?
I got an 8.
Okay, point for me. All right, now I'm gonna roll, and you
Okay.
guess over, under, or equals.
Over.
Yeah, it was a nat 20. So
Nice.
I couldn't. My face couldn't hide it. There was no way you
Oh,
could.
yeah, there's a whole bluffing aspect to this.
Yeah, you can't hide a nat 20. You can't hide a nat 20. Okay, let's do. What was the next one? D10.
Yep.
Okay, so D10. You want to go first or second?
I'll go first.
Okay, roll away, and we'll do the number as 5. 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Over.
Under.
Nah! Gosh dang it! You had a slight smile. I was like, it's over. It's over for sure.
I'm starting to understand the rules of this game.
Yeah, and we just made it up. This is a new game. We just made it up. We can call it. We'll decide the name when we're done. Actually, the name will be Head in a Box. That'll be the name.
Cool.
Okay, my turn. So you have 2 points. I have 1 point, right?
Okay.
All right, here we go. So 5 is the number. What do you think?
I think over.
Yeah, god damn it. Yes, it is over. Okay, you're at 3. I'm at 1. This is the final round. I have to get both these points to tie. If you get any point, you win automatically.
Okay.
D8. Okay. The number is 4. 4 for D8.
Okay.
Do you want to go first or second?
Let's do this.
Okay.
You already rolled. So
Okay. So 4's number, over, under, or even.
I'm gonna say under.
It's over.
Ooh.
It was
Point for you.
5. It was 5. So
Okay.
okay. 3-2. It all comes down to this, folks.
Okay.
It is under.
It's a 6.
No! Congratulations. You are the first inaugural champion of Head in a Box. Rick, I've had so much fun. This has been such a good time.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed just hearing. Just thank you for doing this interview. It really means a lot to
Thank
me.
you so much. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Is there anything that you want to plug? Because you won, you get to plug whatever you like. So
Sure. You can find me on Twitter at Richard H. Perry.
Richard H. Perry. It's a good name.